We're live in Amazon Seller Tribe here today to bring you an awesome interview. I'm super excited about this couple because it took me a while to nab them. I've been creeping behind them with my butterfly net, trying to nab them one way or the other. So did you guys actually, Paul, Jill, did you actually notice me creeping behind you with the butterfly net trying to nab you into one of these webinars? Or was it in Tribe 4 meetup when I came right up to you and I said, that's it, we're doing this?
Yeah, before that we didn't even know we were on your radar. So
you've definitely been on our radar. Well, Paul's been on our radar since the get-go because when Jacob Miller's dad, Paul Miller, the Cozy Phone guy, came into the group, then Paul began to refer to himself as the other Paul Miller. And I said, no, we got you first. The other Paul Miller is the other Paul Miller. So guys, we're super excited to have Paul and Jill Miller here with us today. And sit down with us and share some knowledge bombs and just share their journey. It's always important for us to hear from others how they built their Amazon business, because we say over and over again, there's money all around us. We say over and over again, there's a million ways to make $1 million. And our Seller Tribe members just continue to prove that over and over again. So we're going to get into the history of the Miller family. First of all, frame up for me, and Jill, you can take this one, I think. What does your life look like? Where do you live? What does your life look like? Who do you live with? I'm going to aside from handsome dude. Who do you live with? And tell me a little bit about those people.
Well, we're a family of 5. We've got 3 kids. Our oldest is 12, and then we have a 10-year-old boy sandwiched between 2 girls and a 7-year-old girl. So our kids are still elementary school age. We live in the North Chicago suburbs. We're about an hour north from downtown Chicago. We've got a metro station right outside our little neighborhood that takes us downtown if we want. Nice. We're really close to the Wisconsin border. So we're about 10 to 12 miles from the border there. And that's where we are. So we live in a cozy little town. We love it. We're looking out at a bunch of snow right now. So
oh,
got
yes,
5 or 6 inches yesterday.
I bet it's beautiful. Yes. So 3 kids, and you probably already introduced the 12-year-old to the magic of scanning, right? Maybe even the 10-year-old.
The 10-year-old actually likes it better. I think the 12-year-old might make a decent shopper for us. We'll see. But she's right now, they kind of grunt and groan. We used to have the business in our basement when we started. And so for about 6.5 years, the work was always there. And as the kids got older, we did have them down in the basement working for us. And now we're out of our basement. We have our own warehouse. And ever since we moved out, they're like, nah, it's not right there. So it's not easy. So they don't want anything to do with it.
Well, that will change as they get into the age where they need money. And then they'll look at you guys and go, hey, we might have a cash cow here. We'll go to work for these guys. So Paul, tell us about how you landed in the Amazon space. You came from a totally different background. What background is it? And how did you land over here in the Amazon space?
Yeah, so both Jill and I have a background in education. We were both teachers and coaches for years. We worked together in the same school for a while. We've been selling on Amazon since 2013, so it's been a long time. Just a little bit about our business. We probably, I think if we were to split it up, we're probably about 70% RA, 20% OA, and then 10% kind of a mix of wholesale and private. We have a small private label thing we're trying to get going. So
cool.
And then out of that, we sell in a bunch of different categories, but probably about 75% of it is shoes and clothing.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of our business.
You're RA machines, right? I mean, you're scanner monkeys, aren't you?
Yeah, and that was the very first Facebook group I was a part of, actually.
Right, the scanner monkeys, right?
Yeah,
right. How did you even find out about Amazon, that it was even a possibility to sell on Amazon?
Yeah, so back in 2013, we just had our youngest child. And Jill was a stay-at-home mom at that point. I was still working at a local private Christian school, and we knew that we needed an extra source of income to support a family of 5. Lake County, where we live, is a pretty expensive county to live in. Cost of living is pretty high. So we knew we needed something, but it also had to be some kind of passive income because we didn't have a lot of extra time between, young kids and the time at school. I was in an administrative position there, so it was a lot of hours, not much pay.
Right.
So,
as is the custom, it's more a ministry than it is a moneymaker.
So I started Googling things like passive income ideas, something along that line. And I stumbled across a blog, and I wish I know whose it was. It was some stay-at-home mom who was talking about this new Amazon FBA thing. And I read everything I could find on it, which at the time was literally about
much.
3 different blogs. Like that's all I could find.
Right.
Plus what I and people now are like, what's a blog? And plus what I could find on Amazon itself. And I learned everything I could about it and thought, this is kind of interesting. It's like a little bit like the way I described it to Jill. It's a little bit like eBay, which we had dabbled in.
Sure.
But it seems like it takes way less time because you just send your stuff to Amazon.
Right.
And having 3 little kids, the idea of selling on eBay and having to, and I'm not an organized person either, like to keep track of things and send them to the right buyer. I was just like, I can't.
Right.
So this was July of 2013. So we didn't have any money. We had no extra money.
None.
So we devised this plan to go to Target, because that's what this lady said she'd done. She'd gone to Target and bought these things and sold them on Amazon. And we're like, let's try it with $100. Let's put $100 on our credit card, go to Target, we'll try it out. And I'd read enough to know, like, worst case scenario, because I'm a pretty fear-based person. Worst case scenario, I knew that we could go to Target, buy $100 worth of stuff, send it to Amazon. And if it didn't sell, I could pay 50 cents to get them all back, and we could just return it to Target.
It was 15 cents.
Yeah, it might have even been less than.
It was very low then. It was crazy low.
So I was like, in reality, we're risking $1 or $2. So. And
I will say at that point, like, we had no debt other than our house. Like, we weren't.
Right. You weren't.
No other debt. We weren't adding to debt that we already had. And we were really good using a credit card where we paid it off every month. So we knew if it's not paid off in the month, we'll call it back and we'll be out a couple dollars.
So we wandered into our local Target in the toy aisle. And of course, it happened to be July, which is when Target clearances a lot of their toys. And so they had a lot of toys marked 50, 70% off. Back in 2013, I mean, things were so different. They'd barely started to develop some apps for scanning. Right. There was no such thing as an Amazon seller app.
Right.
In fact, Amazon had just come out with their actual shopping app.
Wow.
It makes me feel so old to say stuff like this. So we downloaded the Amazon shopping app on our phone, and it had the scanning capability, so we could scan the barcode. And I had read something from a guy named Chris Green where you were looking to triple your money. So if you bought something for $3, you wanted it to sell for $9. So we're in the Target, toy aisle, scanning barcodes, looking over our shoulder to make sure nobody's watching us, kind of thing. And we found some
case in the joint.
Right. And we found some things, some action figures and stuff that we're selling we were buying them from Target for $3, and they were supposed to be selling for $12 or $15. So we bought about $100 worth of stuff, packed it up and sent it in. And lo and behold, it sold. And we were like, this might work.
Tell me Jill's reaction when you went to her and you said, that thing that just went live sold. What was her reaction like? Or did she say it to you?
No, I think I was the one that realized it was selling.
Yeah. And it took us probably a year or 2 to get over people really pay this much.
Yeah. Like, why would they do that if they can go to Target and get them themselves,
But
That's right.
We saw that it sold, and we instantly just rolled that back into more inventory. So then we took that money that we had made and we went back and we bought more inventory, and we did that for 3 years almost without touching it.
early on, so we started branching out. There was a Tuesday morning right next to our Target. So we wandered in there and they had a whole wall of clearance with an additional percentage off. And so we just started buying all this kitchen stuff.
And the ROIs were huge. We were like, oh, this is amazing.
Yes.
And then it sat and we didn't know why. So I started doing some more reading and realized there was this thing called sales rank. And then that was kind of important too.
Yeah, so you got to have the two bookends, right? The profit and the BSR.
We were really bumping around blind. Like we were just learning as we went, really through our own success and failures. It wasn't like there was training or groups or anyone else we knew within 100 miles of us doing what we were doing.
Wow.
And so it wasn't like we could ask people. We just kind of felt through blindly and figured it out. So
so we proved the concept enough to know that it worked, and we started to realize even then, at least to some extent, that the more we do this, the more you're going to sell and the more you make. So we kind of ramped up a little bit heading into that Q4, because we started to hear people talking about this thing called Q4 and how how good it could be. Of course, that was 2013, so that was right in the middle of the Frozen craze that we kind of got in on a little bit. I mean, we were still very part-time, like doing this when we could. So it's not like
after the kids were in bed
running all over grabbing stuff. But that first Q4 is when we realized that this really had some potential to be a profitable endeavor for us.
Yeah, you had a tiger by the tail at that point, didn't you?
Yeah.
So let's talk about in the beginning, go back to that just a second. What happens is in the beginning, you are looking for that proof of concept. So you're not investing a lot of money in the tools and the setup and that. You're at your kitchen table, taking stickers off and putting them in the box and using the things you have around your house, right? To make that work, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's probably one of the lessons that we look back on those early days and realize it's important at some point to invest in the right tools. And for us, we went way too long without doing that because we were, bootstrapping at the beginning. Every single dime that we brought in, we put right back into more inventory. And so we got by with what we had. Something as simple as a scale to weigh boxes for UPS to pick up. When we first realized, we have to put the weight on here, we're like, well, what do we do? And we realized, we've got a scale in our bathroom. Let's use that. So we would literally
he'd stand there holding this giant box and I'd
Jill
have to
look
squat
at
down and see the weight, and we do the math.
And she's like, all right, you're 230 pounds. And we subtract and be like, all right, that's a 40-pound box. The sad thing, it's funny looking back on that, but the sad thing is, I don't remember the exact date, but we probably did that for 2 or 3 years. Instead of just going and buying a $20 shipping scale, we just did our math and used our bathroom scale for way too long.
And then taking stickers off was a killer. Tuesday morning, I was like, what is this?
Yeah, they put it on with super glue.
And we Googled it and we're like, heat takes off. Like how to remove a sticker. They're like, heat does. Well, I've got a blow dryer upstairs. So for 2-3 years, I didn't have a blow dryer in my bathroom. Like we wouldn't even buy myself an extra blow dryer.
Yeah. And a heat gun costs maybe $20, but
and it works so much faster than a blow dryer.
Although your blow dryer was pretty nice, but
it was so slow.
So let me just tell you a secret here, if you don't mind, and hopefully no one's listening. So I'm wink, wink. I'm teasing. A lot of people already are listening, but Colleen and I did the same thing. It's just like you used it because it was there. And then you get used to it and you don't even see it anymore because it's just part of your routine.
Right.
And I remember the day at one point we looked down and we were like, are you kidding? We're still using our dang bathroom scale?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? We're making money. We can afford a shipping scale.
Yeah. You don't even think about it. You don't even realize.
The message though really is, some people look for reasons not to take that step because they really are so fear-based. And they might say, well, I don't have money for a shipping scale. I don't have money for a heat gun. I don't have money and over, folks like you guys prove that it's absolutely possible to build an amazing business. And Seller Tribe members, listen up, because in a little bit, we're going to get to some numbers and we're going to see your heads pop right off. Okay. It's going to be awesome. But a lot of people won't take that action because they think they have to have it set up, have to have certain equipment, or they can't do it. And you guys just prove, use what you have in your hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Use what's already around you.
So the one thing we learned a little bit later on in our business was we were asked, what's slowing you down? Where's your backlog? And we looked at each other and we're like, we don't know where our backlog is. Like in our processing, in our, like, what about our business are we getting slowed up in? And as soon as we met and talked with other people, it was like, oh yeah, I hate that. Like that's always happens, or this or that or the other. Like there's always something that slows you down. Early on, it was sticker removal. It took so long to remove all those stickers. We had our 2-year-old working on it.
Gotcha.
And then we Googled, we learned there was this thing called a Scotty peeler. There's actually a tool to help you remove stickers. And suddenly you're able to do that part of your job so much quicker. So it is so important to just figure out where's your backlog, where's the parts that's driving you crazy. There's a solution. There is a solution out there. Find it and put it to use.
So there's a bit of a balance there. Like I think there is some value in realizing that you can just start with what you have. You don't need to have a ton of startup costs to get it going, which is one of the beautiful things about this business.
That's true.
But at some point you have to be smart enough to realize that there's things that will make you money if you're willing to spend the money on them.
Well, there was a point where you were like, hey, bagging up all these clothes is taking up time and it's not rocket science to do it.
Yeah.
So you guys started making some moves. Tell me about that. What began to happen for that?
Yeah, so I think our business kind of started to change a little bit several years into it. There was a few things that happened. One was around 2015. One of the groups that I was a part of, I don't really even remember which one it was, but there was someone that was starting to sell an OA shoe list. And we used to do a lot more OA when I was working because we couldn't get out as much
Exactly.
back then. So we would buy more things online. So there was a shoe list, and several years ago, shoes and clothing, the whole category was gated.
Right.
Like you couldn't
remember
sell
that.
it. You remember that. I think the ungating process was a little different than it is now.
It was, yeah.
But
Nathan Slamans was the one that helped me get ungated.
Yeah. And so there was this deal. They said, if you subscribe to our shoe list, we'll get you ungated in shoes for free.
Wow.
So that's probably worth it. I mean, I didn't know. It was kind of an unfamiliar category for us.
I remember him coming to me and I'm like, yes, pay for that. Like, yes, let's go.
So we took advantage of that. And I mean, that was kind of a big turning point for us because we started diving more into the shoes and clothing category, which I said is a big part of our business right now. Yeah. That was kind of one thing that we did.
The other thing was just, like you had said, our business had gotten to the point where we were spending so much time. So he was working a full-time job plus.
Still working, right?
He'd come home, he'd help me with the kids because I was exhausted. We put the kids to bed, we go straight down to the basement and we list our stuff because we didn't know about buy list. I don't know if there was anything back then. So we'd list everything we bought, we'd prep it, and then we'd ship it. And it was 3 distinct things we were doing there. And it got to the point where he's like, I can't keep doing this. I'm exhausted. And I didn't have the courage to do it on my own. I always told people he's the brains, I'm the slave labor. I just do what he tells me to do. I had no extra brain capacity to be
right. No, you had 3 small children at the time.
For sure. But then I saw the need for him to be able to rest.
Gotcha.
To be able to come home and not work. And I was like, well, our youngest is 3.
Gotcha.
And she's going to school 2 days a week. So what if I have somebody come into our home and help me while she's at school? Mm-hmm. And then if I can get the work done during the day, he doesn't have to do it when he comes home and he'll be able to have that rest time. So we brought a friend in who was kind of just between jobs, a young girl, and she worked for us for a little bit. And then when she got a real job, we had the neighbor boy come over, and I think we paid him $5 an hour, $6 an hour.
Come on.
Just
scrape stickers and put the stuff in bags. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't know how to fold clothes. I had to teach him. His mom was really thankful. She's like, awesome. Thank you.
He was really slow too, but but we weren't doing it. So
Right.
Right.
And it allowed me to, I was right down there with them getting the stuff out, and it just allowed me to get it done before Paul even came home, just in that 2 mornings a week that my youngest was at preschool. And that kind of opened our eyes to, we really can have other people doing this work so that we're freed up to do other parts of it.
So there was also a point where you really realized this could be a potential career move for you. That really you could end up. I think it helps when you get around people who are professionals, i.e., they make their earned income from this space and they're full time in the business,
yeah,
because it expands your view. It's not just a side hustle. We got to earn extra money because we've got, 3 small children. But now all of a sudden, this is something that could be really big. Where was that point? What happened to
yeah.
you in
I don't
your
know if we were,
mindset?
I don't know if we were there quite yet at that point. Like I knew those people existed.
Yeah.
During times when I was driving or whatever, I was an early listener to Steven Peterson's podcast, and he would interview all these people that he called, mega sellers that were selling $1 million a year. And so I knew that there was people out there that could do that. For us, I think at the time we were maxing out what we knew we could do with, a couple $100,000 a year. I think we were selling at that point.
We didn't want to go into debt and all that.
Sure.
For me, it was, we were, with 3 little kids, we qualified for the WIC program, Women, Infants, and Children, where you go in and the government gives you stipends for beans and peanut butter and milk.
Right.
It was so degrading.
Right.
Go in there, and they were testing my kids, doing a blood draw, doing different things to make sure that I was a good enough mother. And I told Paul, I said, I just want to get to the point where we don't qualify for WIC anymore. Like that was my dream.
Wow.
I love that this program is here, and I love that we're able to take advantage of it. But I want to be a contributor to society, not somebody taking.
Right.
And I know that this is a stepping stone for us and it's necessary, but if we can get past this, that was my goal. He never had to go to those appointments. And I said, if this can make us enough that we don't qualify for WIC anymore, we'll have made it.
This is an important, let's camp here just a second. And I know this can be an uncomfortable thing for those of us who found ourselves in the place of, ministry, because what you were doing, Paul, was really a ministry in the private Christian school and really reaching into those students' lives. Jill, what you had done before, and then you're staying home with the children. This is a ministry. And so many times ministry doesn't pay you anything. My husband was law enforcement for 30 years. We made no money. I was a teacher, and then a teacher in a teeny weeny little school, just down the street. We made no money. And I know what that's like, to feel like you're like, hey, couldn't I just get into the, above the poverty level? That would be wonderful. So you set some modest goals for yourself, but all of a sudden things began to change. It was a place where you also began to change.
And it took a while to get there. I mean, we didn't take any money out, for 2 or 3 years after we started. I remember the first big purchase we made with money from Amazon was a second vehicle, because we didn't have one. And the thinking at that point was, it was the summer, and if we were going to do sourcing, we kind of needed an extra car so that somebody wasn't stuck. So we bought, a used vehicle using Amazon funds, and that was kind of a big turning point, I think.
Yeah.
Huge.
Well, and also that summer when we had that vehicle, we said, let's do this full time in the summer, because he had 10 weeks off in the summer where he wasn't working. So let's take the 8 weeks that we have after visiting family and whatnot, and let's do it 40 hours a week. Let's put 40 hours a week into this and see what'll happen and see where it takes us. And after that summer, we were gung ho. We're like, all right, this is amazing. This is proven. We're in. Let's do this. And so that's, I think, after that summer where we dedicated that huge amount of time, we're like, all right, let's go. And that's when we started setting goals. Like, okay, well, if we can do this, then, well, let's hit this goal by this date. And let's hit, for the next year, let's make this our goal. And
so, I think it was 2017, there was a conference for Amazon sellers down in Orlando. And I had gotten an opportunity to go to it. It was, during school, so it was kind of a big deal. I had to take a couple days off and get down there.
Somebody actually paid for you to go, though.
Yeah, it was a scholarship type thing, but I still had the expense of the travel and that. But
that was a big walk of faith, the move of faith to do that.
I thought it might be a good thing to go to, and it really was more than we knew. I mean, that was really the first time in 4 years that we had been around other people that were doing what we were doing. And, suddenly you could see, like you said, there's people that were making a business out of it. And
they were so generous. The people that he met were so helpful and so generous and willing to educate.
Yeah. And I mean, we realized, 4 years into this that really up until that point, we really just had a pretty profitable hobby.
Right.
Started taking it seriously yet. And so that was kind of a turning point for us. And when we realized, okay, we need to treat this more like a business, not something that just makes us a little extra money on the weekend. And so, even doing things like, setting up the proper business structure and finding an accountant and that sort of thing, kind of was a big, next step to another level for us.
So speaking of another level, let's put out some numbers. Let's not go all the way, but let's pull out some numbers here. And you're at in the year 2013, you're kind of bumping around with almost no direction, very much learning through your own mistakes and just searching out every little bit of information. And I don't know how many months of 2013 you were in the business, but what did you end up sales-wise for 2013?
Yeah, well, we started in July, and sales-wise, we ended up in the 40 to 50,000 range. Most of that was November and December.
Nice. And 2014 now, this is the year that I started. I started in September of 2014. So you're ahead of me, in your growth. And 2014, now you made a big leap in 2014. Tell me what that was.
Yeah, I think we had about 125,000 in sales for the year.
Nice. And still you're not pulling money out. Still you're just letting it roll, right?
Right.
That's so brilliant of you, really was. And without anybody, really speaking that guidance in you, this is something that you both had made as a purpose in your business to do this together. And that's amazing. So now 2015, what happened to your sales?
They went up again. I think we were just under 200,000 that year, 190.
And 2016?
Yeah, about the same. I think that was the year we hit 250,000.
Yeah. So
it was slow growth.
It was slow growth, but our net profit was really solid because we were controlling every little detail of it and making sure all of our buys were really solid buys.
Yeah, I mean, early on, we were just so cautious. I don't remember when we adjusted it, but I know for the first several years, we never bought anything unless it was 100% ROI.
Come on.
Or higher, which it might have been easier to do back then because there was less competition.
Right. But, the inventory was a little more, was a little less picked over.
But we did hold that bar really high.
And then when we found it, we'd buy one, maybe we'd buy two of them. So we were really afraid to go deep on anything.
And by we, she means me. Whenever I would take Jill shopping with me, I'd be like, hey, look at this. This one's pretty good. Should I get, 2 or 3? And she'd be like, 2 or 3. Why not all of them? So I'd be like, all right, we'll get 6.
It's like, we know they sell. Buy them all.
Right.
That definitely contributed to our slow growth, probably in a negative way for a while.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was safe and conservative, which he needed. He needed to see that and to feel that. And if I had pushed him too much early on, it would have caused issues, I think, and we would have seen more mistakes. And he just so deeply didn't want to put us in a bad position as a young family.
That's right. Because you have small children. The weight is on him. He's feeling that weight. How do I make sure that this is profitable but safe also for my children? You're going to mitigate your risks. So yeah, you're not playing loose and fast with your money. You're playing very purposeful and careful and stepping it out. Now you get to 2017. That's about when you went to that conference in Orlando, and your numbers jumped in a big way from 2016 to 2017, didn't it?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I mean, they kept edging up. 2017, I think we were pretty close to 400,000 for the year.
Yeah. And now at that point, did you say to yourself, you know, wait, we have a real business here. we really have a business.
Him taking time off from the school to go down to Florida to that conference and meeting with those guys who just really poured into him. When he came back, he was so fired up. He was so energized. And we just saw the biggest growth in that Q4. It was astounding. And it's because we had some direction and we had some focus and some insight into, you know, proper tools that made all the difference in our processing. And that, I remember very vividly him coming home from that trip and telling me about it and telling me about the people he met and just the wind it put in our sails, the energy that it gave us.
Yeah. You know, Jill, I think a lot of people who don't really know us in Amazon Seller Tribe, when they first come in, they may think that me and Gary are kind of, you know, hyping these live events or these meetups or that sort of thing, just because, you know, from a sales point of view, like you know, well, that's probably going to make them some more money. In actual fact, that's probably the thing that makes us the least money and takes the most of our time. But we do that because exactly what you said, it's so important when people get to face with someone else who may be on their same journey or may be already down the road and is willing to reach back and pull you a little bit forward. Can you even begin to express to people how important those face-to-face times are?
Yeah, we can't emphasize the value enough probably of interacting with others. I mean, with where we started, you know, 8 years ago, those opportunities weren't really there. And that's why it took us, I've met in the last year sellers who have grown more in 4 months than we did in 4 years. And a lot of that is the value that they've had in being able to interact with others. And yeah, we were on an island for our first few years.
Yeah, really. And you know, props to you guys for sticking it out too. I mean, thankfully you both had each other. So, you know, you were leaning on her strengths. She was leaning on your strengths. You're covering each other's weaknesses. You know, I perceive that you have a great relationship. You know, when I'm with you face to face, you know, I'm always admiring that. And that helps when you're just not alone, you know, for someone who doesn't have their spouse with them, or like me, my sister with me. It's tough, isn't it? It really is.
We've had other people who have talked to us about it and wanted to start, and then they do, and they're doing really well, but their spouse isn't on board with it. And when your spouse isn't on board with it, it's so hard to be successful because they're griping that the stuff is in the way and that it's taking up their time, and they're just. So I think one gift from God is that I really bought into this right from the start. This was this crazy idea, and I was like, "Hey, let's go for it." He's always been trustworthy. He's always been a good decision maker and a good researcher. And he did the research on this and said, "Hey, let's do this," and we did. And from the start, I was bought into it. I didn't want to do any of the research or the back end work. Just let me do the easy stuff. Don't make me think.
Well, you did have a pretty emotionally draining job on a day-to-day basis, raising small children.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at our timeline and you look at our numbers, we actually have it written out here to look at. It was fun for us to look back on it. But if you look at that, like you can see 2017, big boost. That's when he went to that conference. And then 2018 was
another big boost.
One, and that was because before this, Paul had gone to all of these things. Amazon was his thing.
Right.
And I was helping him.
Gotcha.
And then in 2018, there was this thing in Branson with this Facebook group that he was a part of. And the +1 was free. And he's like, I really think you need to come.
We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit.
A little bit? Okay.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
We're talking about being with people though, and that was another one. So we can see like his conference in Florida that he went to, we can see Branson, and our numbers just improve. Even with the meetup in Kentucky, like after that, your numbers increase because you get a little more wind in your sail. You get a little more energized to do what you're doing.
Right. And you just, sometimes it's just little hinges swing big doors, as Gary says. You pick up a little hinge and you're like, hey, that just saved me an hour a day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a couple of those little hinges to talk about.
Yeah. So, so yeah, back in like 2017, 18, that was what you had mentioned. We kind of started realizing, this could be a full-time thing if we wanted it to be, and we weren't there yet. We weren't ready to make that jump, but
we actually made more in 2017 selling on Amazon than we did at his ministry job.
Oh, and that.
So that's when it was like, okay,
yeah.
how about Amazon pays the bills now, and we'll set aside your school money that you get.
Yeah, we had started taking a percentage of each disbursement from Amazon to use for ourselves. At that point, we had done it for a couple of years. Kind of the profit first model before profit first.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. Before they even wrote that book.
Right. Which is an excellent resource. It's been really helpful for us. But and so yeah, that percentage that we were taking from Amazon every 2 weeks, because we had the 2-week payouts,
right.
That money was starting to exceed what I was making for my salary. And so we actually kind of started changing that. We had been using that money kind of for extra stuff, which was a big boost for us.
Right. Because we didn't have money in the budget for clothes or shoes. So when the kids grew out their shoes.
Right. What do you do?
Somebody gave us something, or like we just didn't have, our budget was very bare bones.
Right.
We actually made a switch to where, okay, let's start using Amazon money for our budgeted stuff. And then the money that we get from the school will be the extra. So that was kind of a big shift.
So did you get to the place where you're like, okay, this is a big shift, I mean, I just need to sail out of this school and sayonara, and let's just go full time on Amazon and, hit another gear. Is that how?
We talked about that. We prayed about that a lot. We said several times, boy, if you had 40 hours a week to devote to your entrepreneurial spirit, like, what would happen? We're doing this part-time and we're making this much. Like, what would happen if you didn't have your day job and you could just do this? He was so stressed out with the work that he was doing. I remember 2017, he came home from a big 2-week long trip that he led with a bunch of students. And he turns to me on the way to church one day and he goes, Jill, I'm not a psychologist. And Paul's an introvert. He doesn't voice this.
Right.
So the fact that he said this to me, I was like, we're in trouble. He turned to me and he said, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm pretty sure if I met with one, they would diagnose me with burnout.
Oh.
And my heart just sank because I've seen that for so long. Like, he wasn't really present with the kids. When he was home, he was completely exhausted. The school was really in crisis mode and really just trying to make ends meet. And so they had cut positions, and Paul was now doing the work of about 2.5 people.
Wow.
And he was so stressed out.
Wow.
And so we actually talked about it, like, hey, do we do this? But we felt him leaving would really be detrimental. And we prayed about it, and we felt, God's the one who brought us here. We live where we do now for this school. Like, God brought us here for this job, for this school. We're not going to turn our back on that. We're not going to walk away from that. We're going to have to shut that door. And we both came to that same conclusion. And then God did shut that door for us.
Wow. Tell us about that.
Well, it was completely sudden and unexpected. That year, the 17-18 school year into the summer of 2018, the school is definitely in trouble, and we had talked about, well, maybe these positions could be cut, maybe we could combine these, that sort of thing.
Paul was the number 2 guy at the school, talking with the administrator, saying, hey, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. So they were in really close communication about things that needed to be done.
So in the middle of the summer, I suddenly and surprisingly found out that my job was one of the ones that was going to be cut and merged with some other, out of the blue, out of nowhere.
How about this? God kicking the props out from under you.
Yeah, really, we look back on that and realize that, like,
God's hand was in it.
It happened in such a way that it had to, in order for us to get to where we were. Because if it had happened differently, I probably would have talked myself into staying. Like, what if I say halftime, or like we could have worked out something. And so, yeah, it definitely worked out the way it did for a reason.
Yeah.
Right.
And if we were choosing, like, if we were plotting, let's take this business full time, I would have laid out this, elaborate plan of, okay, we're going to save up 2 years worth of living expenses, so we have nothing to worry about, and then we'll build a business and we'll be fine. But we were just kind of throwing headfirst into it that summer.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, that's smart. It's wisdom. Or God sometimes does kick the props out from under you, and he's like, time to fly, boy. Come on. So
Yeah.
What
He was so
happened?
faithful. He was so faithful through that whole time. So ironically, the same week that we found out he lost his job, we actually closed on a house that was double the size of the one we were living in.
Wow.
And we were like, do we go
What?
forward? Do we move? You know, what do we do? And we really felt God's direction in that. So we moved into that house. And so that was September that we closed, like August, we moved into that house. And so we lost his job in July. We kind of just were rebounding that month. September, we were moving and fixing up and painting. So like by the end of September, October, we're like, okay, it's sink or swim time. We've really got to make this happen. And
It's
so
go time.
we pushed in that fourth quarter.
But I think we kind of underestimated how helpful it would be just to devote all that time to the business. And it really did kind of take off at that point.
Yeah, so 2018, you landed at the end of December 2018.
Yeah,
You're smack dab in the middle of what number?
Yeah, I think it was around 550,000.
Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
so that was huge with healthy margins too. So we were in a good spot.
Sweet.
So yeah, by the time the Branson conference rolled around that summer of what is that, 2019, I guess.
Yep.
We were we had a comfortable business with a comfortable salary. We were working out of our basement, which was bigger than our old basement. We had a part-time employee that was helping us, and we were kind of in a groove.
You're in a groove, and in fact, that or you Mike could say you were on a really, really big trampoline.
Yeah,
that was about to catapult you to something phenomenal.
Yeah, and we didn't know it at the time. I mean,
you didn't know it at the time. Let me ask you this. You remember the lanyards?
Mm-hmm.
You had the lanyards at the conference, right?
Right.
So if you were 2018, about you were probably purple lanyard?
Yeah, the purple. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you guys were purple lanyards. And when I ask people to go to someone, find someone, and, impart that lanyard into them, what lanyard did you end up with when you gave away your purple one?
I'm pretty sure we managed to grab a gold one from somebody. So,
yeah, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. That was a really special moment at the conference when each one of you played into that act of faith, where you went and either invested your lanyard in someone else or someone else invested their lanyard in you. And, and that really, I think, helps people begin to see themselves differently. When all of a sudden you're a purple lanyard seller, go to the June conference, by December 2019, and I'm still mad at you for flying under the radar with me on this. By the end of the year, you guys are bouncing around on what figure?
$1 million. I think it was actually like the first week of January.
We did it the first week of January.
Yeah.
And do not breathe a single word to me about that. But now that gold lanyard that somebody invested in you is hanging around your neck, and you're $1 million seller. And ladies and gentlemen, like I said on Tribe 5 rollout the other night, and that's not all. Hang on to your hats, because you're about to be floored. All right, we're going to blow your head off in just a minute. It's all good. It's a good thing to have your head popped with this kind of thing, because you guys exploded my brain at the Kentucky meetup. And you were talking about what happened in your business. You're giving me a little insight into your story. And I was chiding you for not letting me know that you'd hit the gold lanyard seller status, because I wanted to have the gold lanyard seller moment with you.
We knew that.
So we were like, yeah, no thanks.
No, you were hiding. You were like, I hope Gabe's not looking at me. Thank you for doing this interview, by the way. It's super important for people to see and hear from so many different voices. But you know what? 2019, I mean, how much bigger trampoline can you all of a sudden create? Because 2020 came in, and by then you guys really knew how to run in this groove, and you guys really had learned how money works. And you had also learned how scaling your business profitably works. Tell us what happened in 2020.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are several things starting with the Branson conference that really kind of propelled us in that direction.
Helped us scale very quickly, actually.
I mean, again, we already talked about the experience of being around other people, but as we interacted with people at Branson, which was so easy to do compared to even the other conferences I had been to, you start to realize, this person is pretty normal, just like me. And they're selling way more than me. Like, we could do that. That's not, it's not that hard.
Expands your vision, doesn't it?
Well, I think there's three things about Branson that were huge for us. One was me coming in and seeing, because he'd always been the leader on this, the one taking it. And I was just like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so when I started seeing this, I started being like, no, we're buying 20 of those. We're not buying 2. And I started to understand and realize and learn a whole lot more, being exposed to other sellers, being at Branson, learning different things. So me coming in and joining him, as you asked the question about the +1 thing. And I was like, well, I stopped being a +1 when we went for time. And honestly, that made a huge difference when I stopped being that +1 and we became equal partners in this business.
Right.
That I think has probably made the biggest difference, not because I'm anything amazing.
No, I understand. No, it's that unity of vision. And also, you double the manpower, so to speak. Right. Yeah. But a big thing is too, he had the weight taken off of him from, what if it doesn't sell? What if it doesn't? Because you were in it with him. You were making decisions with him. And so he's not like, well, if it all falls down, it's on me. You guys were both in the harness together. It's so powerful when that happens.
And you have different strengths and weaknesses. Like, that's the advantage of working with a spouse as your partner, is that, because you're together, you probably, tend to have different strengths and weaknesses anyway. And so those are just highlighted in a business. And there were things that I wasn't very good at that Jill came in and was able to kind of shore up. So.
Yeah. If it was just Paul, we wouldn't have anyone in our house ever.
He's an introvert. He's an introvert.
And I'm a coach. So I stopped teaching when the kids were born, but I kept coaching, and I coach volleyball at the school. And so I had all these girls that I was working with. And as a coach, I see who's got a good work ethic, who can follow instructions, who's a really quick learner. And so I was able to take some of these girls and be like, hey, do you want to come and work in our basement and fold and bag clothes and all of that? But so, that's our strengths and weaknesses, really balance each other out. And both of them add into the growth and the success that we've seen.
So, and the last thing with that conference was we had a lot of conversations leading up to that. Like, we were in a comfortable spot. We were making more money than we ever had, working essentially part-time.
Right.
And we started to say, like, are we good with this? Like, how much money do we need? Like, to maybe save for the kids' college and that.
Paul's a numbers guy. And before the Branson conference, he had actually run those numbers, and he had said, this is what we need to live comfortably. And I just looked at him like, no, like, we can do more than that. But I was like, okay. And then Gary Ray got up and he spoke at the Branson conference, and I still hear this phrase in my head. He said, I talk to people all the time that say, I just want to make enough for my family. I just want to make enough to make ends meet.
Just enough to get by.
Just enough to get by. And I looked at Paul and he said, he kind of had this dramatic pause, and really loud, he said, how selfish is that? And that really spoke to us. Like, we both graduated from Bible college. So most of the people we graduate with are like on the mission field. They're missionaries, serving. Sure. We have lots of personal friends that we could support. We have lots of families that are in our area living in a very expensive place that want to send their kids to a Christian school and can't afford it. And we could offer work for them and we could support them. And I began to see this vision of how we could be a blessing to other people. just by working a little bit more, just by improving our processes. And
come on.
So Gary's point was you have certain gifts and abilities and experience at that point with online selling. Like, why would you just use it for yourself when you can do a lot more with it?
Yeah.
So that was kind of a kick in the pants motivationally speaking.
Put a vision in us of, let's provide a good work environment for other people. Let's provide jobs. Let's put we have already, you know, been supporting and tithing and whatever, but let's, what more could we do?
What more could we do? Wow. And so let's drill down on this just a minute. What you're doing right now by doing this interview with me, though, you know, you had felt a little uncomfortable and kept ducking me on it. But the butterfly net's powerful. You're doing the same thing right now. You are investing in somebody right now. There are words that you're saying that are going to be as pivotal and powerful to them as when Gary Ray said that phrase at the conference, and it was so pivotal to you. You're doing this again. You're investing right now, this minute in the webinar, you're investing in somebody else's moment. How exciting is that to think about?
Yeah, it's really neat to meet new sellers. And we actually met two that we were able to get to know pretty well in Kentucky, and to just be able to be like, do you know about this? And do you know about, like, let's save you the couple years that we were banging our heads in the dark. And it really is fun and rewarding to be able to encourage newer sellers.
So before we get to the lessons that I would like if you would to kind of summarize, you know, the lessons that you've learned in your journey, because you did start out so early and without the support that many of us have, and certainly without the support that tribe members have. But before we get to that, I want you to get to December 2020. 2013, 40,000 in sales. By 2017, you'd 10x that. You're almost 400,000 in sales. By 2019, you got the gold lanyard. You're chilling. You're a gold lanyard seller, feeling fine. And 2020 came and you hit a whole nother gear. Tell us what happened. Everybody is on the edge of their seat to hear this right now. Tell us what happened.
2020, we ended up between like 2.1, 2.2 million in sales.
Whoa, wait. Don't just throw that out there like it's more than doubled.
Yeah.
In 1 year.
Yep.
Yeah.
More than doubled in 1 year. God put something in you and was like, wait a minute, my vision has been too small. He's really more interested in me than I knew. He's more interested in me helping people than I knew. And the instant that happened, this explosion. Do you look back on the 2020 and go, wow, what was that?
Well, yeah, especially when you think about in March when everything shut down, we both looked at each other and we were like, whoa, like we kind of got this feeling. We were out shopping when I got the call that practice was canceled that day. I had a boys volleyball team. And I was like, Paul, it's all shutting down. And we were actually walking from Nike to Polo in our mall. And we're like, we got to buy all the things. Like this.
Right.
So we hit it big. Like we shopped as much as we could that one day. And then sure enough, everything shut down. And then we had our preppers. We had 2 girls working for us down in the basement. And we're like, we got to get this stuff out because
come on.
Talking, Amazon's going to shut down. And then they did shut down. And we had 8 weeks, 6 weeks. I don't even know anymore. Where we're just like, what are we going to do? And we looked at our accounts and our numbers. And
yeah, I mean, I was immediately scrambling to be like, all right, how long can we survive with like
right. You went into survival mode, right?
And we were actually okay. I was like, I think if we sold nothing on Amazon, we'd be okay till like sometime in the summer before.
Right.
And then we didn't realize that. I mean, I hadn't taken into account that people were going to start buying stuff like crazy on Amazon.
And
at least as long as we had it.
Was higher than it had ever been.
Our inventory levels were really high, and so we just sold through that. And it actually ended up being,
A huge
we ended up being in a
blessing.
pretty good cash position at that point because our sales finally caught up with our spending.
Prior to
you know?
2020, he was juggling the credit cards and trying to figure out how to, which one needs to be paid off and all of
Right,
this. And we were like,
right.
and if we could get to a cash position where
Right.
we're able to pay everything off completely, that would be amazing. And 2020 COVID did that for us because we weren't able to spend as much, but we were making as much. The sales were still coming in.
But yeah, I mean, our 2020 sales numbers, I think, came from things that started rolling at the end of 2019. Following that conference, we made some huge steps that really helped us kind of systematize our processes.
We had no clue really what we were doing up until that point. We were still doing the same things when we walked into Branson in 2018. We were pretty much doing things the same as when we had started in 2013.
Which at that point was just what worked. Like, how can we get this stuff out the door? Yeah.
And what you're talking about is actual processes. Like, how does that item you bought from XYZ store end up going out the door? So the physical process, like, how does it get prepped? Where does it sit? How many times you're walking around your space? Those kinds of things. All of a sudden, you get some lean management help, and that comes together.
Yeah, Perry Coughlin did that session at the conference, and we both looked at each other and we were like, we need that.
We both were like, we're going. Like, we would take our money. Because we both knew our processes were a hot mess.
Because it didn't exist, really. Like,
we had processes. We didn't even know about buy lists at 2018. We didn't know what buy lists were. So we were shopping in the store, coming to our basement, and then we had to enter everything into the
and it all over again.
6-foot Nike receipt.
Come on.
Price and put everything in individually.
And at that point, I was doing most of the shopping. And so when I look back on that, I would go out shopping for a day, and then I would have to sit in our basement for 2 days to list everything and get it out. And it's such a time suck when I could have been doing other things. And so cleaning up those things and figuring out some processes and how to do things just made that growth so much easier.
When we were down in San Antonio, someone said buy list. I'm like, what is this buy list? I'm hearing this word. Like, I just stopped someone. It was Katie Chaddock. I was like, tell me, what is this? And she's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, what? Are you kidding me? And then we also, from that, we heard about a stand for your heat gun. If anybody's holding their heat gun in your
little things like that, move processes forward.
So huge. But San Antonio was, I mean, Perry and Kim, the way that they have things set in place and the questions they ask really helped you. We did the whole spaghetti map of our where it was a disaster. Down the stairs and it was this big.
It really did look like spaghetti.
It really did. It really did. And we were just like, our first day after being down there with them, we both looked at each other and we're like, our brains are just, we can't absorb anymore. It was so much and so helpful. And that, honestly, nailing down our processes and finding an efficient and effective way to go from point A to point B, from bringing stuff in and getting it out, it made all the difference in the world for us. And that's the reason why we were able to double our sales.
And that's what allows someone else to be able to do it for you too. Yes. You have to have those things in place, or they're going to come and be like, this is a mess. I can't help you.
So, one of the things that Carol and Griffey are going to be coaching on in Tribe 5 is that point of processes too. And, they use buy list and really have, I've been in their preps place is in a Missouri cave. It really is, in Kansas City. So I've been there, and they have it set out. I've been in Todd's warehouse, and boy, they have it set out where you, as you said, get from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. And that, I can't even remember the numbers. One day Todd told me how much they had prepped and shipped, the number of units, and I just dropped my jaw. I was like, I don't even know. Unbelievable. But you really don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even know the questions to ask until you're around other people and they kind of conversationally say something and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Wait,
what's that? Because they'll say it because they assume everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But I don't know it. You don't know it. Somebody else picks it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's so helpful to go and be with people who are doing what you're doing. And even you can learn so much even from new sellers because
Mhm.
they come in with fresh insight, fresh eyes, and you're like, wait, what? Oh, okay.
That's
Um,
right.
and you can learn from anybody who's doing it. Anybody else could have this nugget that you're like, oh wow, that really helps me. And then who knows what information you have that could help somebody else. So really just having that opportunity and creating that environment where you can meet and talk and share ideas and successes and failures, it's all very, very helpful.
That's super good. And that's, that really was my vision for Amazon Seller Tribe, because I was kind of like you when I started. Colleen and I started in 2014. And you're right, there weren't the kind of support systems that are available now for sellers. And we were bumping around in our basement. I remember the first shipment that we were trying to get out. We were so scared that if we left the computer, everything would disappear, or that even if the computer went into sleep mode, that everything in our shipment would disappear. So we're like, we didn't eat until 10 o'clock that night because we're like, this box is going to get taped. We're going to die trying, because you just don't know what you don't know. And bumping around like that without the resources. And that's why when I spoke with Andy, to help build that bridge between those that weren't ready for PL yet or need to grow their capital, they could come into the space and have the support they need. And I'm glad that that's worked out for you guys as well, that you've been able to profit by it. 2 million, 2.1, almost 2.2 million dollars in sales. And I don't have a lanyard that color. I don't know what we're going to do. I told Dan Wentworth, the only thing I can think of is on the gold lanyards, we're going to start putting gold stars for every $1 million level people are hitting. So Paul and Jill are going to come into the next conference just clanking with all the medals coming down. And I am so, so proud of you guys. There are lessons that you learned along the way. Can you summarize those lessons for those who may be new to Seller Tribe or maybe new to selling it all together, and they just feel like, I just don't know if I can do this. If you will summarize those lessons, it will give them the confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of already mentioned this a little bit, but it's important to invest in yourself.
Right.
I mean, the quote that's out there about you have to spend money to make money. I mean, that's true for inventory, but it's also true in yourself too, with training and education. I mean, we've grown so much as a result of the training that we've gotten. That's definitely something that's been helpful for us. So that's one.
I would say nail down your processes. I mean, if you're a shopper and that's what you're doing and you're sending it to a prep center, then figure that out, learn it, nail it down, and then you can clone yourself and you can train other people.
So good.
Yeah. And when it comes to, if you are prepping your own things, figure out how to do it, learn from people that have really good systems in place. And then once you get that done, and we didn't have it perfectly, we had people working for us with no processes, and we came back from the San Antonio workshop and we're like, okay, everything we've taught you, we're gonna redo this whole thing. And now we have one of those girls still with us, and she's like, wait, we did what? Yeah. She can't remember. I think she's like blocked it out. It was so bad. But yeah, processes, like learn from other people, find people, and there is an efficient and a quick way. We ship about 500 items a day from our warehouse.
Wow,
and
brilliant.
I don't do one of it. We were sick for 2 weeks after Christmas, and our team was still able, we have shoppers, we have preppers, they were able to get it all out and get the work done even without us there, because they know what to do. And it's
awesome.
And
That's awesome.
Yeah, I always hated bagging stuff and labeling things, and
right, that was your least favorite part anyway.
Yes, yeah, and honestly, I can't remember the last time I had to do that, which makes me happy. But and Jill's been good with that as far as the processes, and we have 5 part-time warehouse workers for us now that that are trained, and honestly, they do that stuff better than we would have anyway because of those processes. So
because we had more hours and more experience doing it. Once we show them how, then they take it. The other thing that I would say is trust the people that you're working for. We have a tiny little girl We hired her when she was 16. She was one of my players. At the end of the season, I was like, hey, you're not playing basketball, right? Do you want to come work for us? Because we needed Q4 help. And she just was an amazing worker. She was a homeschooler, so she was able to come in the morning, which was great for us. And she started working for us, and she's like, I really like this. She actually went into
supply chain management
in
college. Yeah.
Wow.
Dual credit with high school. She's a senior this year. She's going to graduate with her supply chain management. She wants to work full time for us when she's done. So she just turned 18. She is literally running our warehouse.
Wow.
She is good at what she does. And I have just I've given her the freedoms and the thing. I said, hey, I want you to do this. Go, like, I can't handle this. You go do it. And she eats it up. She loves it. She's learning a ton. So
she's grown right into the job.
Yes. And we've given her that freedom. And I would say, I don't know if we're getting ahead of ourselves, but as you build a team, it's really important to have a really good work environment. We just brought a girl in to that. We needed more help. And so I brought in an older lady about my age, not a high schooler. Most of our work at this point has been like high schoolers. So she's about my age. Yeah, some college students. And she goes, boy, I can just tell this is a fun environment. Like everyone that's here really enjoys being here. And I was like, so
nice.
That's what it is. And she was very much, we trained a new shopper this summer. Both of them were like, well, what if I make a mistake? And I was like, oh, you will. You're going to make so many mistakes. And guess what? You're going to have to return items to store. My shopper just yesterday made a bunch of mistakes, and I went through them with her, and she's like, I'm so sorry. I was like, it happens to the best of us. Paul makes so many mistakes. You wouldn't believe it. I was like, and guess what? It's not your last time making a mistake. So just giving them that freedom of, you know what, it's okay. My adorable little warehouse manager I told you about, she failed to stay on top of our Dymo labels, and we completely
ran out.
In December.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And she looked green. She felt so sick.
Oh no.
And I looked at her and I said, Gabby, you'll never make this mistake again.
Right.
It's okay.
Don't be afraid of making a mistake. Some people don't take action because they're afraid. Say, what if I make a mistake? Well, you will. You're right. You will. But it's not the end of the world.
And so just creating that atmosphere of, you know what, you are going to make mistakes, and we're going to learn and grow through those mistakes, and it's okay. You're not going to be fired the first time you make a mistake. Like, we're going to work through it, and we're going to grow. And that has allowed our shoppers to be more bold in their decisions that they're making, and to be more confident in the decisions that they're making. And they know if they make a mistake, they're just going to have a bag with their name on it. They have to return it. It's so just creating that atmosphere. But you have to have that. You have to believe that first yourself and not be afraid. And I remember Deanna Slamans at Branson standing up. This was a game changer for me. She stood up there and she told about Andy's huge mistake that he made.
Yeah.
How he lost
$12,000 in like 2 hours.
Yes. And I was like, well, if they can get through that,
come on, we
can get through whatever mistake we're going to make. And it helped me not be, and Paul too, because he's more the fear-based person and I'm always pushing him. But that's always stuck with me. Like, there are people ahead of us who have made bigger mistakes than we've made.
Right.
And they still are alive. They're still married. And they're still succeeding. It hasn't stopped them. And so just knowing that, it bolsters you. It gives you that, okay, I can do this.
That's right.
So you have to believe that, and then you can pass it on to your team and just encourage them and love them through the mistakes they make.
That's awesome. So let's wrap this up with maybe a fourth lesson. Give me one more lesson that you've learned that you guys have really set in your business.
I think it's been really helpful for us to make goals for ourselves each year. And I'm kind of a numbers person anyway, so that's easy for me, but it really kind of gives you direction. Talk through, what you want your sales to look like for that year. And we did that every year, going back to 2014.
Yeah.
What do you think we can do this year? And I mean, I'll be honest, looking back, I think when I set goals, I'm kind of competitive, so I like to win. So I'm like, yeah, we can get that. Let's make that our goal. Yeah. Honestly, our 2020 goal was like, yeah, I think we can get 1.5 million, and Jill's like 1.5, we can do 2. Like, well, maybe, but I know we can do 1.5.
He'll only say what he's confident we can do, and I'm like, we're gonna blow that out of the water.
So
And you did blow it out of the water. So setting goals are important. You got to know your numbers. You got to know where you are now to know where you're going to go.
Exactly.
It's not just numbers either. Like for
No.
us, we looked at, we have goals for this next year. We looked at there's two areas where we're kind of weak and we really want to improve on those two areas. And so that's our goal for this year. Like we kind of have a number goal out there, but
that number goal was more based on what we want this year to look like more than we've got to hit that number.
Sure.
So
what does your 2021 look like? I mean, and you're right. It doesn't have to be the next number, go from 2 million to 3 million. It could be go from 2 million to 2.5 million, but have only 10 hours a day invested in your workplace. I mean, what does your 2020 look like in your?
Right. That's part of it for this year. One of the bigger parts, we've been homeschooling our 3 kids since last year. And that's afforded us some unique, travel opportunities. We got a motorhome and have been visiting national parks and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So part of our goal this year is to actually work less, so that we can invest in our kids over the next year while they're still young. Yeah. So that does factor in there. But then we look at some of the weaker areas of our business. Like we know we can grow in our OA area of the business, and so
that's something you can do while you're traveling.
Yeah, or you can have other people do for you
while you're traveling.
Exactly.
And so we've identified that as an area. There's another category that we're looking at that we know would be easy enough to expand in, and so as we sit there and look at those things, we think, if we did those, I think we could probably get 3 million. If we don't get 3 million, but we are better in those 3 categories, we'd be happy with that. Yeah. Of course, we have a friend that keeps telling us that 3 million is nothing. You're going to get 5 million, but
that can happen. Who knew this time last year? We were sitting here this time last year. Who knew what was going to transpire? We didn't. Yeah. And it's amazing. And the growth in e-commerce just continues. So the opportunities just continue.
I would say that you can sell $1 million on Amazon and be in debt and not profit a penny. And so for anyone new out there, like I feel like dangling that carrot in front of you of, I want to reach this number goal, don't lose sight of profitability in that.
Right.
Keep and Paul was really good about this the whole time. He really just wanted a healthy business. It wasn't about hitting the numbers. It was about having a healthy business. And I remember he sat down with someone and they looked over all our numbers and they said, you've got a really healthy business here going. And that was just so reaffirming to him. He needed to hear that from somebody other than me. So just be smart and don't chase that 1 million at the cost of losing the relationships around you or losing your credit abilities.
We're going to be drilling very, very hard on that in Tribe 5 because it's so important to guard your net profit. And Paul, you and Jill both have been very vigorous to do that. So when we're saying 2.1, 2.2 million, we're saying 2.1, 2.2 million with very healthy margins and very healthy net profit. In fact, as you look back on what you earned as a coach and then as an administrator in a private Christian school, and you lay that number against what you have right now, what happens to your mind and your heart when you do that?
I remember there's a week during fourth quarter this past year where I looked at him and I said, do you realize we just sold almost twice what you made in a year? We sold that in a week. Like we almost profited your entire year's salary in 2 weeks. It's just mind blowing.
Yeah. So we're definitely thankful for where we're at. It's funny how your view of numbers changed though. I mean, what used to be a yearly salary is literally a 2-week Amazon disbursement,
It's amazing. It is amazing. It really is. Guys, you have such an amazing story. And I am super glad that I was able to capture you and get you on camera to do this, because I know even while you were speaking, I just had a real major sense that there was somebody out there going, wait a minute, this just caught me. This just, I was almost ready to hit the ground. and Paul and Jill Miller reached out and caught me before I hit the ground. There's going to be some other people who are going to take some hard looks at their business and going, how can I do this better? Because you've challenged yourselves to do it better. And you continue to challenge yourselves to do it better. I see you guys here. I see you guys here. So you're not like sitting on your laurels going, I think I know everything now. I don't think they can teach me nothing.
Yeah, there's just so much to learn and so many areas that we need to improve in and just really nail down. So,
and the process and the possibilities continue to be endless. As I said, there's money all around us, and Amazon has given us a great straw by which we can suck that money right up out of there, put it in our bank accounts. I love that so much. I love you guys' hearts. I appreciate you bringing huge value to people today in the webinar. And I love what you said a while ago about taking your children and visiting the national parks, because that's kind of a dream in my mind. Chris, it's grandchildren. It's not you're way younger than me, but that how fun and educational, memorable. You have opportunities.
And that doesn't come overnight. That started back in 2018 when we realized, we need processes, and because of the things that we started, the steps that we took in 2018, we were able to leave our business fully functioning for 2 weeks, more than twice already now. We've left it for big chunks of time, and other people that we trust are running it and making decisions and doing a great job, and we're able to just walk away. So
that feels so good, doesn't it?
It
feels
does.
so good. Paul, I told you down there in Kentucky, I finally told you why I always look at you intently. And, a little bit, but some of you are like, why is Gay all looking at Paul so intently? Because guys, for some of you who don't know, he don't know my Irish twin. He looks exactly like my Irish twin did when he was Paul's age. And in fact, some of their mannerisms are so eerily similar. And even how he turns his head or holds his mouth when he's about to say something. And it's fascinating to me. It's almost like I'm getting to look at my Irish twin all over again. Well, we're farther up the trail than you are on the age bracket, but when he was your age. So it's a great joy. Jill, it's a great joy to hear from you and how you guys have synchronized your business relationship, your marriage relationship with your business relationship, found those strengths, encouraged each other in your weaknesses, covered each other in your weaknesses, and helped move those processes forward. So I am super thankful for you to spend this time with me today. Thank you for being here. And thank you for taking a chance on Amazon Seller Tribe. Paul came in very early in Amazon Seller Tribe, maybe back in 2017. And he's been growing with us ever since. And we're so glad to have you guys here. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for chasing us down and having us.
Yeah. It was really fun. It was fun for us to look back over our numbers. Like, we haven't sat down and looked at them from the start. And it was a treat for us to kind of look through all of this and just give God the glory for the way he's grown us and walked with us through every step of this way. So
you should sit back today and just rejoice.
Yes.
Love you and appreciate you. Bye-bye, guys.